Okay, good afternoon and welcome everyone to this virtual open house for a new park at Yonge and Grandview. I'm Keith Irish, the Ward 1 councillor. I'm Keith Irish, the Ward 1 councillor for the city of Markham, and I want to thank you for joining us on what turned out to be actually a beautiful June evening. So thanks for taking the time. Thornhill is such a well-established community that, unlike many of my colleagues on council who are representing communities across Markham, there are not very many opportunities left for new parks in Thornhill, although that is changing somewhat with the new developments such as this that create the opportunities. So I'm excited to be here this evening and to participate along with you in the discussion that city's Parks and Open Space Development team have planned for us. We've all learned some interesting and valuable lessons during the pandemic. And one thing is for certain, we're tremendously grateful for our parks and open space and thrilled to have new ones coming along that we can soon celebrate and enjoy, like this one. With that, I'll introduce the staff that are with us this evening and then turn it over to Stephen Tippett to walk us through their presentation. So staff involved in tonight's meeting include Stephen Tippett, who is Project Manager, Parks and Open Space Development with the City of Markham. Just gonna, if I could I just ask everybody to mute, please? Oksana Nigaru, geez, I was practicing this earlier today, Oksana, honestly. Oksana Nigarutsa, Project, actually, Oksana, why don't you say it?
Name is Oksana Nigarutsa. That's close enough, so don't worry.
You say it like you're singing it. It's beautiful. Project Coordinator, Parks and Open Space Development with the city. Haley Patel, the Coordinator, Planning and Urban Design. Derek Lau, who is a landscape architect with a third-party consultant. And my assistant, Lauren Patton, is also with us tonight. So Lauren, thanks for joining us. Stephen, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Irish, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, as Councillor said, on this beautiful evening, as we share with you a few conceptual panels on the future neighborhood park. My name is Stephen Tippett, and I'm the project manager with the Parks and Open Space Department here at the City of Markham. I first want to thank Councillor Irish again for his continued support to bring this park forward and ensure that it does get developed for the residents in this area. I know the residents have been waiting for additional park space within the immediate area for some time now, and staff are here in front of you today to let you know that we are planning to get a contractor on board and awarded and start construction at the end of this year. Parks and Open Space staff have been working alongside our hired landscape architect consultant, RK and Associates, to develop a recreational neighborhood park plan that is both aesthetically pleasing and functionally sound. Staff understand the challenges when developing this conceptual plan, as the demand for park facilities within neighborhoods is always so high. In consultation with the Integrated Leisure Master Plan, internal stakeholders, and you, residents at large, it's important that we continue these conversations so that we are truly delivering for the current and future needs of the residents. And while we cannot place all facilities in every park, we will certainly do our best to determine the service needs and facilities of people of all ages. So before we get showing some panels, I'd like to first discuss the format for this virtual open house. I will be sharing the panels with you and describing the proposed location, conceptual layout, and providing some contextual imagery for future neighborhood parks. Once the panels have been delivered, once I brought them forward, I will be opening up to questions. And if anyone has a question, I would please ask that you message the chat box on the right-hand side, and messages will be queued by staff, and questions will be delivered by Oksana for discussion. For ease of reference, if everyone could kindly update your Zoom name to the name you registered under, it would be appreciated. And to do this, simply right-click on the mouse, on the screen rather, and click on the rename function. For those of you who don't wish to ask any questions, that's perfectly fine. You'll be able to find a comment sheet available on yourvoicemarkham.ca/parks, and all panels presented this evening will be posted tomorrow morning for further review and comment. I would kindly ask that anyone who wishes to provide comments, who doesn't wish to provide any comments tonight, if you could provide your comment sheets to Oksana by no later than July 6th, as we would like to respond to comments and get this project under a roll. So comments will all be thoroughly reviewed and discussed with our internal team and our consultant team. And as I mentioned, responses will be provided, as well as the finalized park plan on yourvoicemarkham.ca/parks prior to advancing to design development and the tendering. And the responses to all comments and the finalized design should be provided, or will be provided by the week of July 26th. In addition to this, park staff are currently reviewing for an appropriate park name for this neighborhood park. Yonge and Grandview Park is currently a placeholder until a formal name is decided. For those of you who are interested, staff will also upload a link to the City of Markham Building and Parks Naming Policy, which outlines the requirements when providing or suggesting a name for a future park. And that will also be provided on yourvoicemarkham.ca, and you'll have that available tomorrow. So with that, let's begin. The first panel we have up is a location map. As you can see, the location of Yonge and Grandview Park is at the southeast corner of Yonge and Grandview, just east of the Vanguard condos to the west, and residential dwellings to the east and north and south. Real closest neighborhood park is at Sir Robert Watson Park, which is a very small play space that provides some relief to the immediate residents. But the main park in this area is Grandview Park, which provides a lot more servicing and a higher service level for the residents within the southwest corner of the City of Markham. Next slide, please. So here's our conceptual plan. And on this plan, one thing I first wanted to bring up is, I'm sure some residents have noticed the number of what's soon to be windscreens in the area. And these are surrounding the north side and the west side and a portion of the south side of the park. And these are 2.3 meter high. What they're going to be is extra thick glass screens with a bird-friendly design glass treatment. And they've been strategically placed to reduce the amount of wind. So these are really wind mitigation measures. This site is really impacted predominantly on the northwesterly winds in the park. And they're also, what we're trying to do is to increase comfort for the park users. So based on wind patterns, it was determined that the most comfortable areas within this park are actually at the southwest corner of the park and the areas towards the eastern park boundary. Just going through the park itself, if we start on the northeast corner, you'll see this large existing silver maple, which will be retained. The tree itself is estimated to be about 80 to 100 years old. It will be retained. The existing sidewalk that is there will be leading into the park space itself, which will essentially lead you to a large shade structure, pavilion area, which is approximately 25 by 25 feet. And underneath that, we'll have a number of seating tables, which is like a 4-seater table. We'll get into what that will look like on the materials page. So we'll have three nodes of that. And then also leading into that, we get the junior senior playground, which is approximately 400 to 425 meters square. Junior and senior really references the age groups that we're trying to reach with this. Typically speaking, the junior is for age groups from 18 months to 5 years, and the senior is from 5 years up to 12 years. And also within this playground, as you'll see in future panels that we'll be showing in a minute or two, is what this will look like. But essentially what we're also going to be having here is 2 belt swings, 1 bucket swing where you can put the babies in, and an accessible swing which has a full harness as well. The safety surface material that will be used here will be a fiber mulch, which is an accessible surface, and there will be an accessible ramp into this play space that will support the safety of the playground. Surrounding the playground, you have this sort of walking trail to the north, leading all the way down to the west. There'll be backed benches placed throughout there. I believe we're showing 3 right now, and that will lead you. Just gives you another sort of walking activity around the playground. But the main spine down to the south, leading to the west, will be the main sort of walking sort of corridor. That sort of corridor leads to another larger seating area with another shade structure. It'll be an overhang cantilevered structure, which will be fully enclosed. It won't have any gaps, and that will really help with the sun that's cast in the afternoons. Those will also be provided with 4-seater tables. One will be accessible. Sorry, pardon me, my dog. One of the challenges of working remotely, but I'm sure everyone is experiencing the same. So my apologies. But in regards to the tables itself, one of the things that we're trying to produce here is another added activity. So those tables themselves will have a checkerboard positioned inside the table, so it's all sort of unique and integral. Just another added opportunity for recreational space. There's the larger open lawn. This park itself is only 3,000 square meters or 0.3 of a hectare. It's really not that large, but when we looked at this area as a whole, we really noticed that there really isn't a lot of, just a little bit of green space where you throw a frisbee or kick a soccer ball or, throw a baseball even or a football. So we try to provide as much green space as we can with this project, with also giving opportunity for different seating nodes throughout the park that sort of could be used as a passive space. And that leads you further up to the north, which will sort of lead you into the entrance or exit, whatever way you decide to come into this park. You'll see the windscreens that will be provided there to the north, which sort of jet down and into the park, but there'll be also opportunities for seating there as well. The lawn area itself, the open lawn area itself, will be sodded. You'll see within this drawing, there's a number of deciduous trees scattered throughout, and coniferous trees along the southeast corner, all the way along the south corner. And we're really trying to provide as much of buffering as we can from the residential properties to the south and to the east. One of the things we did look at was trying to give us a decent enough buffer away from the residential property to the east, and that is about a 10-meter offset that will be provided away from the playground, from the property line. And we are again trying to buffer that with a lot of vegetation and trees itself. The dark green area that you'll see along the south and to the west, those are really what our landscape architect suggested will be pollinator type planting. There'll be a seed mix with some whips and some shrubs that will be incorporated within there. And that's not something that will be fully maintained. Obviously, if it gets overrun with weeds, we'll have to revisit it. But one of the exciting parts about pollinator plants is, it's really bringing in bees and whatnot, not necessarily swarms of them, but pollinator plants that can certainly help support the growth and development of a naturalized area. So with that, let's go to the next slide, please. So on this slide, you'll see the proposed playground that we're providing, or at least we're suggesting. Again, everything we're talking about today is a conceptual plan, and we are looking for feedback and good, bad. I say this at every meeting. I said, we're really just looking for your comments. So please do provide us with all of them. But on the left-hand side of the top view, you'll see the smaller junior playground, which is leading into the larger playground. To the right, we have a number of, I believe, there's 4 or 5 slides on this, Oksana. And then we have a number of climbing structures to climb up. There's a number of standalone nodes that are used for rockers, activity panels itself. You'll also see the 2 belt swings that we're providing there, as well as the bucket swing and the accessible swing, which is the blue one that the arrow's pointed at right now. Next slide, please. So this is the materials page. This gives you an idea of the types of furniture that we're going to be having installed here, or planning to have installed here. Your standard black back bench that we have. That is a powder coated stainless steel, not a stainless steel or a galvanized. Maybe Derek, you could speak to that, but it's a pretty heavy duty bench, back bench. And then right next to it, we have the table with the games table, sort of integral to the seating area itself. So we'll be trying to provide a number of these underneath both seating areas to provide different opportunities of just social gathering. And another element to this is, and maybe I didn't speak to it, but we're going to be putting these little seat walls in that are about 22 inches high. You can see on there, there's a skateboard guard type of apparatus that's attached to it. It's just a little channel that's attached to it to sort of negate any sort of skateboarding onto it. And then just next to that gives you an idea of the types of planting we're looking at incorporating within this design. And then there's some trees, deciduous coniferous style of trees to it themselves. The shade structure, this is the very similar type of shade structure that we're hoping to put in here. It's quite large. It'll provide an ample amount of shade underneath and a good opportunity for parents to sit and watch the kids from the playground. And then of course, just our standard trash and garbage receptacles and recycling units that we'll be placing within this park. Next slide, please. So this is a bit of a perspective. It's often hard to show what a plan will look like in plan view, but this is a perspective which will show you, this is at the southeast corner looking to the northwest corner of the property. You see the playground, you see the large shade structure itself. You see this, I mean, you could almost call it a walking loop, I believe. It was about 150 meters. I'm talking about a larger loop around. If you were to walk out to the, if you were to walk out to the sidewalk and back in around, it's about 150 meters. It also leads over to the shade structure at the southwest corner, an additional sort of seating under there, and then to the open lawn area itself. And I believe the next slide is another perspective. And this is looking into the park. You can see the glass panels themselves. They will have, I mentioned earlier, they will have the bird decal on it, sort of to deter against any sort of flying into it or whatnot. But it's a glass panel. The intent is that you can certainly see through it. You know, when we're doing these designs, we certainly look at certain programs like CEPTAD, which is crime prevention through efficient design, that if there's any questions, I'm sure Derek, our landscape architect, can talk about it. But having viewpoints through these glass screens was critical, just to continue to ensure that, you know, our parks are fully viewed from the street. And that's a big part that we try and ensure. You'll also see on this slide the underground parking access points. Those are the two buildings, one to the west there, yeah, and then the other one just on the south side. And those are all, you know, we try to take that into account too when we're designing this, to try and, you know, buffer it as much as possible, but understand that it is there. This park itself will not be lit. There will be no pathway lighting throughout this park. There will be a small safety light that is underneath the shade structure by the playground, which is operated by a photometric light. So once it gets dark, the light will automatically turn on. And when I say safety light, it's really nothing more than lighting just a small little glimmer of light for safety reasons. In terms of parking, there is on-street parking on the street, on the south side of the street. Actually, if you want to go up to the plan view quickly, Haley. So there is on-street parking on the south side of Grandview Avenue. There are, you know, when we talked about lighting just briefly there are two street lights that are along Grandview that are actually in front of this park. And you know, additional lighting that will be as part of the condo parking lot. There's also two lights that are in that parking lot as well, but certainly not any light that's going to be lighting this park itself. And so if you want to go back to the last perspective, I think at this time, Derek, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add, maybe talk about quickly the design and why it was laid out the way it was. I know we touched about the wind mitigation measures But if there's anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, so the open lawn space, as Steve mentioned, was strategically positioned as an area where we were trying to create open space where there's no seating, because it will potentially be uncomfortable at certain points of the year due to high winds. So we've strategically located benches and the play areas and the sheltered areas away from that studied area. The playground itself was positioned so that it's providing a good buffer from the east property line, just providing a good amount of space, and then again buffering that between the shelter, and so placing the shelter between the playground and the property line. We're really trying to create two different areas within this park, even though it's small. So creating an active space over towards the east where the playground is, and then creating a passive environment to the west where we envision a little bit more quieter activity for residents to picnic, enjoy the lawn, relax, that kind of thing. So not much else to it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Derek.
You're welcome.
And really, I think that lays out, what we were thinking for this park. It's not a large space, but it's certainly a space where we feel that we can provide certain amenities for the people in the immediate area. So I think with that, Oksana, if we want to start opening up some questions, I believe we're seeing some questions come in.
Yes, we have just one question so far. Marilena was asking if there's a reason for not incorporating more lighting into the park beyond the safety light under the shelter.
So, and Derek, I'll let you speak to this if you'd like to, but essentially when we look at, CPTAD, which is crime prevention through efficient design, we understand that light certainly attracts people. And one of the things we didn't want to attract is people into the park space when it's really not being supervised. So within every park, you'll see park signs, and park signs are not fully supervised in terms of bylaw officers going through them on a constant, driving around on a constant basis from the hours of 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. And we do not light our parks in Markham. That's a standard that we have. We have just a small little safety light, which is provided underneath the shade structure, but it's not something that casts enough light to gather. That is really the reason. Can you add anything to that, Derek, in regard to CPTAD?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, if we were lighting this, it would be the pathways only, and it wouldn't be the entire park space. And so, by lighting it, you'd be inviting people to use the pathways when it is unsupervised. And so it's not really necessary when there's no function to the park in the evening time.
New question came from Corey. Why not put the more active and likely noisier elements further east away from the nearby housing?
So do you want to go back to the plan view, please, Haley? And then we can try and answer that one. So the question was, Oksana, why did we put the playground?
Yeah,
close?
Basically, why is it so close to the housing? Yeah.
So I guess I'll answer that in that it is buffered 15 to 20 meters away from the property line. Just the scale may look a little different when you're viewing it here, but there is quite a bit of space between the property line and that play area. We didn't want to put the playground and the seating associated with it where there's high wind. It would create a very uncomfortable situation for kids and adults alike to use that space. And so with the amount of money invested in providing that play value and component, we wanted to make sure that it was good to use most of the year.
Thank you. And of course, if that doesn't answer your question, please bring it up. I mean, like we said, we're trying to provide you with as much information as we can. So please feel free to continue to ask if you still have additional questions.
Peter is asking what type of mulch will be used in the play area.
So it's a 5-bar mulch. It's like a wood chip mulch. It's an engineered mulch for safety reasons. It's considered a safety surface. Do you want to speak on the safety surface, CSA standards and third party, Derek?
Yeah, it's a safety surface, so it provides the impact attenuation for kids if they're falling off any of the play features. But it's not your typical backyard landscape mulch. It is specifically selected and processed so that it will create a knitted fabric that supports a mobility device like a wheelchair. So it allows for the accessible reach of the play equipment for people that require a mobility device.
And all of our playgrounds are third-party inspected by inspectors to ensure that they comply with all standards prior to opening. So the 5-bar mulch is considered a safety surface and an accessible surface, and really comes down to cost. I mean, the next sort of level of safety is you look at like a rubber tile, and when you look at a rubber tile, the costing for that is nearly 7-8 times the cost of a 5-bar mulch. Like it's very expensive. And with the limited size of this park and the limited budget, we certainly try and provide the best value we can. So that's certainly the safety surface that will be used here. And I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Victoria is asking why not use trees instead of windscreens?
Do you want to speak to the windscreen at all, Oksana?
Yeah, sure. The developer for the condo, for the Vanguard, they have engaged engineering firm that is specializing at the wind studies. So they have prepared, they've created, they have recreated the conditions of the park in their artificial environment just to measure the wind speeds throughout the year and how they change. So it was determined that trees just won't provide enough screening and they won't slow down the wind enough to make the park more comfortable for people. So windscreens, it was just determined by the engineers that solid glass screen will provide will be the most effective solution here.
Yeah, and I think it really comes down to a comfort level. If those windscreens weren't there, then you would be having higher winds that wouldn't be pleasant to really even do a leisurely walk. So they're certainly there to support the comfort and feel of being in a park that has limited wind. Hope that answers your question.
Evelina is asking if the parking garage, I assume it have direct access to the Vanguard condo to the west of the park. I'm not sure I fully understand the question, Marlene, so could you please clarify? There's no direct access from the underground parking into the park. The entrances, like exits from the garage, they face the street. One of them faces the street and the other one faces the parking lot. So let me know if it doesn't answer the question, but there's no direct access from the garage into the park. Corey is asking if the developer is responsible for the cost of developing the park.
So, great question. So the developer is responsible for providing the land for us to develop for this park. The land itself the park itself is funded through developer charges. So there's a number of charges that developers are associated and have to pay as part of their development fees. But the direct costs associated with this park is not fully funded by the developer itself. They provide the land, and then it's almost like a large bucket of developers provide certain fees, and those fees are attributed to the construction of this park. Great question.
Victoria is asking if wood benches will be cooler than iron ones. So
this really comes down to an operational question. It's typically been from a lifespan perspective that these benches, these benches have a long life expectancy. The replacement costs themselves, to put a wooden bench in, you might have to do it a bit earlier than you would have to put in these iron benches. So it really comes down to a maintenance aspect to it. When you say wood bench, do you mean, I'm just trying to think like a typical wooden structure, like a wooden picnic table. Is that the type of structure you're thinking about? There's certainly another aspect of, you hate to say it, but vandalism. These are very durable. These are very durable chairs, and we found, or at least operations has found, that they last the longest. It's a quality material, it's quality surface, and it provides comfort as well. So that's really the rationale. From going from a wood sort of bench to a more sort of modern iron bench. Thank you. Good question, though.
Marilena clarifies that she was wondering what the concrete structures are that are labeled with parking garage access. Those are existing stairs from the underground garage to the surface. Those are just, from what I understand, those are just emergency exits. And they are existing already. That's just concrete structure with the door and the stairs inside. Another question from Yagos, I think. Will you consider building boxes where people can grow vegetables or anything they like?
Not in this park. No, this is going to be a place of really active neighborhood park. It's not typical that we put food gardens or gardens itself within these neighborhood parks. But again, it's a great comment, and I think it's one that we can certainly take back to our team and understand proper reasoning and real rationale for it. So thank you for the comment. I hope that gives you some answers, but I know it. As part of this, we are collecting all questions and answers, and we will respond to them formally. But within this park, there's no plans to have any sort of vegetable gardens or sort of gardens, public gardens itself.
Lorraine sent more like a comment on the question that there's a lot of cement in the park and we need less cement and more green spaces where people can sit. Green, large open space in the center has no benches and the park is not well set up for seniors.
So if I could say that, I think that's a great comment. I think one of the things that the design team could take back is really reducing the widths of these pathways. There certainly looks like they are quite thick. I'm not sure if these are envisioned for a 3-meter pathway for parks operations and any sort of maintenance requirements. Is that accurate, Derek? Yeah, I see.
Yeah, that loop around the outside is 3 meters for operations access to the park. If we determine that operations isn't required to drive into this park, then we can certainly reduce that down to 2 meters. Unless Oksana has something else she wants to add to that.
Yeah, we will definitely explore how we can reduce the concrete.
Okay. Was there another part to that comment, Oksana?
Yes, about there's no sitting, like there's no benches in the large green area in the middle, in the open lawn area.
Well, we really want to keep that open lawn area for play, right? If we were to put a bench in the middle of that in the middle of that lawn, it would certainly sort of interfere with that thought. Also, when we put in benches, we typically put them on a concrete base, and that's just a typical standards that we have with our operations team when it comes down to benches installed. So I could certainly see maybe opportunity for some additional benches maybe provided around the sort of main walking loop. But when we're putting benches in the open lawn, I know that's certainly against sort of the design that the architect and our team has been looking at. But it's certainly something that we can think about. I think another element to that is when we look at sort of the seating that we have around the open lawn, you can see the seat wall. So you see at the southwest corner, you see the shade structure, but you can also see a seat wall that's located. That's backed on the west side and the south side, which also provides additional seating. And Derek, you could speak to it as well, but the positioning of the seating area was really to look onto the lawn, to be part of that sort of area itself, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We were really trying to provide a lot of seating opportunities and a variety of seating options. And so those include the backed benches, the tables, as well as a seat wall. Understanding that a seat wall isn't something that's comfortable to sit on for a long period of time, especially without a backrest, but it is a spot where you can sit, rest, observe out onto the lawn. The lawn itself provides opportunities for informal seating opportunities, and that people can bring picnic blankets, their own lawn chairs, and use the space however they want. And that's why we didn't want to also prescribe specific seating arrangements within that space, because it could be used for kicking a soccer ball around, or it could be used for laying out picnic blankets. As is typical with an open lawn in a park-like setting. So,
Thank you, Derek. And I hope that provides a little more clarity to your question, but thank you.
Marilena is asking if a greener walkway path can be made instead of using a cement where possible.
So Derek, maybe you can speak on accessibility, but I think the alternative for the pathways that we would be looking at would really be a concrete or an asphalt in terms of safety, an appropriate accessible safety, or an appropriate accessible paving type. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, so I would say there's probably 3 options. Typically when you're considering accessible pathways, and that's concrete, asphalt, and limestone screenings. The limestone screenings doesn't really fit the environment here, being kind of an urban context as well. It requires a lot more maintenance. They typically erode during rain events. And so we went with concrete here because we think it's a bit of a higher quality surface. And we were just likely going to be able to achieve more of the forms in the design that we wanted with that material. And so that's why we chose concrete here. But yes, sorry, it does provide the accessible condition that's required by the AODA.
Good, thank you, Derek.
Peter is asking who will be maintaining the Pollinator Garden.
Well, our parks operations staff are certainly in charge of this this entire park once we have substantial performance. Maybe you can speak to the Pollinator Garden or / naturalized area buffers, Derek, and the reasonings to it. This lower maintenance type of material that we're considering as an additional buffer, right, from the residential properties and the parking lot.
Yeah. So it isn't intended to be an ornamental garden where it's very well manicured and maintained. It is intended to be more of a naturalized environment where you have a variety of different perennials and shrubs and trees that can provide different attributes to the ecology of that edge of the park. And so you will have flowers in there, you will have a variety of shrubs, and this will, bring birds, this will bring butterflies and bees and other insects, and really help improve the ecology of this park so that it's not just a sterile lawn.
Thank you. I hope that answered your question. If not, please feel free to provide more comment.
We don't have any more questions. That's it for now.
And how many, Haley, how many residents do we have us, or how many people do we have us joined right now? I'm wondering if maybe we can sort of go to the perspectives and if, kind of roll through these, and if people have any more questions.
Yep, a few people did join us like 20 minutes after we started. So if you wanted to go through it again, we could definitely do that.
I'm open to doing that, Councillor.
Yes, Stephen, maybe before we do that, I've got a few things I'd like to say. Can you go
Sure.
back to the site plan for a moment?
Yep.
So Stephen and the team know that I like to try to squeeze as much as I possibly can out of the space. So just indulge me a minute here, Stephen, okay? And if you think it's a crazy idea, then I'll take that as,
There's no crazy ideas.
as being possible.
That's why we have these. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So the shade structure located near the junior senior playground. If, just imagine for a moment, if we were to make it smaller, maybe remove one of the tables and shift the playground itself and that table a little bit further to the, I guess it would be the northeast, and thereby increase the open lawn area, even just a little bit more. Now, I'm not so sure how much space we have on that open lawn, but where I'm going with this is the growing popularity, certainly, of outdoor ice. If we brought in a water service and some community volunteers wanted to flood an ice rink in winter, and it's quite a popular thing in the Grandview community and a very, very long tradition of doing that. Could we conceivably have enough space if we did something like that in the open lawn area?
Sure, I think that certainly there's an opportunity for that. The open lawn area itself, and Oksana, Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, is approximately 600 meters square. So what that means is, you could probably put in, 600, I would say at least a 300 square meter, circle oval pad in there just for recreational play. So I could certainly seeing us providing that. And even if we aren't to really capture that much more space, I think there's an opportunity here to put in that sort of like a yard hydrant in there, just if we wanted to have a smaller skating rink. Now, 650 meters square, I believe that encompasses sort of all the areas just to the north of the playground itself, really around the parking garage sort of exit and the exhaust units there as well. So we're really probably looking at, Derek, what, 300? Well, the playground's 400, so you're probably looking at about a 400 square meter sort of oval pad. Derek, is there any concerns regarding the trees? During construction, we really try and look at an offset from the drip line for construction. But if we were to put in an ice pad, could we go closer to the drip line, inside the drip line, and make it a bit larger? And that's not to say that, I think it's a great comment. I think we can certainly look at making that shade structure a bit smaller and trying to position this up and opening up the lawn area. But what is the thought regarding that? How close could we get to the trees? And would there be any concerns with really going to the edge of the pathway?
Well, initially, those trees are going to be a lot smaller, and so you can go very close to them. I think I'd have to understand there's a variety of ways that municipalities prepare ice pads. And so I think I'd have to understand how Markham does that before properly answering that question. But just for context, that open lawn space right now is, it could fit a rectangle about 80 by 50 feet. So that's half the size of a standard ice rink. So, or just a little bit more than half the size, I think, than a standard ice rink. So, we can fit quite a large skating space here, even with the way the trees are currently positioned and the pathways.
Interesting.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, do you have something else? I've got a couple other points, Stephen. Do you?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I have a concern about the trees and the depth to the ceiling of the rooftop of the underground parking. It's a habitual problem at World on Yonge where the trees can never grow deep enough and become old enough without encountering problems with their roots and the roof of the underground parking there. And they're dying and they're constantly being replaced. So do we have any similar concerns here? It's nice to suggest all these deciduous trees, but I'm worried about the roots and the roof of the parking.
So maybe Derek could speak to that, but Oksana, could you highlight the depth of soil that we have from? So let's maybe step back a bit. This park itself, there is, as we've talked about, we have the access points from the underground parking. Underneath this park, or at least half of it, the whole sort of lawn area itself is above a parking garage. And so being above a parking garage, there's obviously some certain requirements that we have to consider when we build. And in terms of the soil depths, Oksana, do you have the soil depths?
Yes, the depth from the finished grade to slab is about 1.6 meter.
1 point.
So it's over 1.5 meters of soil until we reach the granular material on top of the garage. Yes,
that's more than sufficient for these trees.
Okay. All right, so that's good to know. The other is continuing with the theme of trying to squeeze as much in here. Ping pong table?
Absolutely. I think a ping pong table is a great use of an outdoor activity. And I think, and Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, you could probably afford a ping pong table at the same price you could afford one of the seating nodes. So when we put ping pong tables in, they are solid concrete structures. So we would be looking for a permanent place for this. With is it a galvanized sort of solid net, Derek, across?
It's stainless steel.
Stainless steel, so it's certainly not going to rust. But absolutely great comment. I think we could certainly find a place for that within this park.
Okay. My last comment, could you go to the playground images, the playground equipment? Now, this is just me. It's an aesthetic thing, I suppose, and it's petty, but the rooftop looks like they've melted under the sun. To me, I don't quite like that. Looks like it's wilted. I just don't quite like that look personally.
Sure. No, that's fair. I mean, we can certainly look at, the reasoning or rationale behind that curve, if it provides certain shade underneath your elements that maybe certain other shade roof structures that they've used in the past don't work. But we could certainly take that back and review the roof surfaces. I think one of the added bonuses about liking this playground when we decided that it could be a preferred option was that both structures themselves had a shade element to them. And so as part of that, I think it's certainly something the team can take back and review the whole shade aesthetics for this.
Again, I said it was a personal thing and it was rather petty, but
that's okay.
That's what I see when I look at it. So.
That's okay. Like we always said, we want to hear comments, and if there's any more comments regarding playground, by all means. I mean, I know for a fact if my children saw that senior structure, I mean, that's quite a unique piece. There's a number of climbers to it. I mean, you can walk underneath it and you climb up underneath the structure and get on top of it. And so there's a lot of good play elements to these pieces, which certainly supported us when we were looking at the design.
Yeah, there's a spiral staircase. Actually, it doesn't really show up well in these images, but there is a spiral staircase within the middle of that senior play element that provides an opportunity for younger kids to even use this. My 2-year-old daughter has climbed up a structure very similar to this. It's within my neighborhood. And she thinks it's really neat that she can get to the top of this one. Of course, I'm right there with her, but...
Very good. Well, thank you, Councillor. We do appreciate your comments, and we will certainly take them all back to our team. I noticed another comment came in, Oksana.
Yes, we have two new questions. Lorraine is asking which hours the park will be open.
So our typical bylaw signs for parks is that they're unsupervised from the hours of 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. So when we say it's open, that's really what we refer to. I mean, of course, there's obviously contact numbers available on the signs that any sort of concerned resident can call if there is sort of noise taking place during those hours, at which time our bylaw officers will certainly investigate and ensure there's no sort of extracurricular activity or whatnot taking place. But it's certainly unsupervised. Not to say that our parks are ever closed, but it's really unsupervised. I hope that answers your question.
And another question from Eden, asking if there's any washroom in the park or access to drinking water.
No, we didn't. For the size of this park itself, we certainly can't provide a washroom facility on site. But I mean, we plan these smaller neighborhood parks for people in the immediate areas, right? In the ILMP, it refers to having a playground, at least one playground within every 400 meters within the built-up residence. So we're hoping, and I know it's hard with children, that you can use your facilities at home and come and enjoy the space and return as needed. But no, there will not be any washroom facility, and neither will there be any drinking water facility at this as well. Although that's a good question, and certainly in terms of the water, the drinking water option, we can certainly take that back with our team. I'm not fully sure on the requirements of if we can put a drinking fountain within this without having the support of a larger washroom or sort of complex facility, but it's something that we can certainly look into. So thank you for the comment.
That's it. There were no more questions.
Okay, I think we spent some good time on the playground here. Derek, did you want to add anything? There's that piece. If you go back to the playground, please, Haley. There's that piece there that's that standalone unit. It's got some activity panels on it. What's yeah?
That feature is called the Quiet Grove, and it's a quiet place for some children. I believe with autism or Asperger's that need a quiet retreat sometimes to get away from the other kids. And it's just a place for them to go. And there's texture and little things that they can do on the actual panel while they're sitting in there to help them. So it's designed specifically by the manufacturer to meet the needs of those kids, as well as other kids that just may feel overwhelmed by the play with others in the playground. So it's just a quiet space to provide for the children to get away to.
And there's also, I believe, the panels, the boards themselves, like the I guess like sort of the walls, they have sort of is it like a music theme or?
No, it's more texture and it's more texture related. I don't believe there's any musical opportunities. I don't think it's auditory. I think it's more like you can move a piece up and down a squiggly line. There's some texture. There's a wall to push on. I think it's more texture related.
Great. Do you want to go through this again? I know it's just about 7 o'clock, Councillor. This meeting is being recorded, and this will be posted as part of the comment sheet and panels tomorrow. If you think there's value to go through the presentation again, I can certainly do that for any of those who have joined us a bit later. Haley, was it just a number of people who joined us about 20 minutes after? Maybe that we've missed?
Couple, like 2 or 3.
So maybe let's go to, oh, sorry, Councillor, I don't know what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't see very much value in doing that. So maybe Corey's come up.
Yeah, with a question.
Yeah, we can share the recording with those attending, and they can share it with other residents. I think that's probably the best way to proceed, unless there are any strong objections. I certainly don't want to offend anyone, but I don't see much value in starting from the beginning again, to be honest. So maybe before we sort of wrap it up, I'll do as I've done at other sessions such as this. I'll open up the floor to questions of me. If you have any, whether they're related to the park or just generally Markham Council or Thornhill, the ward, or anything that's going on while I'm here, I'm certainly happy to take any questions that you might have. And if you don't, that's okay too. You know where to find us. Anybody with any questions about anything? We're getting lots of thank yous in the chat, which is nice. Okay, not seeing any. All right, any last and sort of final questions before Stephen wraps it up, just in terms of the park itself? Any other feedback, any questions, any concerns? Stephen, one thing we didn't talk about was how much we're spending. Do you want to just share that with the group? It's always a bit of a shocker, I think, for people to find out how much.
Yeah, sometimes it's a shocker that it's too much or not enough, but we certainly work within the budgets that we're given. And I believe the budget for this park itself was about 475,000 Oksana, plus or minus.
Plus or minus.
Yeah. So I mean, we certainly work within our budget as best we can. We try and utilize all the money we have itself. When we do look at funding for playgrounds themselves, there are a lot of costs that are underground, right? The drainage of these play pits, there's curbing within these play pits, there's the safety surface itself, and then the playground itself. These playgrounds, as the years have gone on, continue to get expensive, and we certainly try and provide the best we can with the monies we have. So that's our budget for this, is about 475,000.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I see a Mark Kisselman. Mark's put his hand up. Mark, do you have a question for us? If you do, just unmute your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Fire away.
Yes, Mark. Hello.
Sorry, I'm just listening on the auditory
Yes.
side. I'm a resident of the building. Out of curiosity, for defects, repairs, and all these things, is this covered? If we spot any issues with the park or anything defective work or anything, starts to falls apart and breaks within 6 months, what's the course of action that we following up through? Is our building management going to follow up with the city, or is this covered by the manufacturer? What's the process?
Mark, I'll let the team answer, but boy, are you a glass half empty or a glass half full kind of guy? I'd hope there wouldn't be any issues.
I'm an optimist, but I look at things through a realistic set of eyes, that things get rushed, people make mistakes, and knowing the avenues on how to deal with things is the best solutions, so we can we all be satisfied, sir.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll let Stephen take that one. Thanks, Mark, for the question.
Sure. So thanks, Marcus. As part of construction, this park itself will have a 2-year warranty. So from Substantial Performance, when the park is essentially open to the public, there'll be a 2-year warranty on absolutely everything, including the trees. So if a tree doesn't make it, it will be replaced. Our team does 1 year and 2-year follow-up warranty inspections as well. So if after the first year a tree dies, then it's replaced, and then it's looked at again at the 2-year. Following the 2-year warranty review with this park, which is supposed to be handed over in pristine condition, just like any of the other parks following construction. If there's any issues at all regarding materials, degradation of the pathways or anything, there's a parks operations phone number on there on the signs. So there'll be a number of signs that will be placed at the entranceways to these parks, and one of them will be the contact center, which you can call to bring any of these issues forward. So certainly there's avenues that you can that are going to be available to you on the park through signage that you can call if you have any issues at all. So I hope that answers your question, Mark.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions about anything? Last call. I think everyone wants to get outside and enjoy the June evening. Okay, seeing none. Stephen, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to conclude, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. This is certainly a process that we'd like everyone to get involved with. So if any of your residents didn't come to the meeting tonight, by all means, please direct them to yourvoicemarkham.ca/parks. I don't know if Oksana or Haley, if you could put that on the chat board so that they can go to it tomorrow. Panels and this presentation itself will be presented tomorrow. We will have the comment sheets out. We would ask that the comment sheets be returned to us 2 weeks following this meeting so that we can roll into the design development and the tendering of this project to get a contractor on board so that we can have this park built next year. And with that said, thank you again, everybody. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to myself. You can put my, Oksana or Haley, if you can put my email address on there as well as Oksana's, who's the project coordinator for this project.
Steve, Marlene is asking if the questions submitted today are being accounted for, or if we need to submit, the president needs to submit comment sheets also.
No, absolutely. So all minutes will be taken from this meeting and they'll be tabulated in the forms of questions, and we will be providing the responses to this as well. So great question. All questions taken today will be taken and noted. Great. Well, thank you, Councillor Irish. Thank you for your time as always. Thank you, team, and thank you, residents. That was great.